Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you are having a good day. Just me in the studio, no makeup, no fancy hair. I'm wearing the old Transport Evolved hoodie, and there's a reason for that, which I'll come to in a little bit. And I've got my coffee in my Patreon mug. Cheers to all the people who joined Transport Evolved's Patreon the other day. We went over 1,000, and I think we've got now 1,015 subscribers, which is fantastic. And a shout out to Patreon. Disclaimer, I'm a Patreon ambassador. That means I have been chosen as one of the Patreon creators to kind of talk about the benefits that Patreon has brought to Transport Evolved over the years, which is why we have it. Hello, everybody. We're kind of be very informal, but today is unscripted. It's unexpected. More testing, if you'd like, of the StreamYard setup, because you've got a very important live stream planned next week that I want to talk to you about. But I think we all need to have a bit of a cathartic release of frustration. And I think that kind of from a therapeutic point of view, everybody in the EV space and the cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter vehicle world needs to just take a collective breath and just enjoy the fact that things are pretty rubbish right now. I nearly said the S word, and then I decided, no, I'm not going to swear in this. Maybe I'll swear later on. But things are pretty rubbish in the EV world. Hello from Norfolk. Do you keep Trauschenbor? That's where I'm from. So why am I eager to hear what nobody wants to hear? Well, okay. I think what nobody wants to hear right now is that EVs are in a really screwed up place right now. EVs are in a really screwed up place right now because of how GM has handled the Chevrolet Bolt problem, how EV owners are treating each other in the EV world, and generally how what Chelsea Sexton calls the circular firing squad is just getting ridiculous. To the point that, and I want to just kind of reiterate this, underscore this. I have considered quitting. I'm not quitting. I have considered quitting more in the last 3 months than I have in the last 15 years. And that's because it feels as if the EV world has become so tribal, so split, so full of hate and mistrust for everybody else who doesn't have a vehicle that is the same as your own, that it has become very difficult for us to be cheerleaders of cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter vehicles. I'm not just talking about people trolling in comments either. I'm just talking about the way that we treat each other as a community. And I know that in speaking these frustrations here, I think some people are going to be frustrated about it and say you should only talk about positive things. But at the same point, I feel that we need to be very honest and truthful about the fact that right now, being an electric car driver is particularly challenging. Not only do we have obviously the pressure of climate change, and there's obviously a lot of political divide in our world. You know, right versus left has become so polarized, so split down the middle, that there are people who regularly sort of say to me, I would love to drive an electric car, but I do not want to be a target. Even somebody in Oregon said that to me recently. I would love to buy an electric car, but in the town I live in, I know buying an electric car that looks like an electric car would make me a target, and I do not wish to be a target. And I guess we need to sort of decide why we've got to this point. Some of it is political. Some of it is, as Christopher just said, it's a reflection of where our society is, EVs notwithstanding. And I think that we are at a point now where, you know, I'm not going to lie to you. I regularly now sort of wake up in the middle of the night and go, why am I doing this? What is the point of doing this? And normally, luckily, someone on the team or myself or my wife or someone else comes around and says, we're doing this because we want the world to be cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter. And you know, Exactly. As Dev Siv says, I agree. I think it's more of a sign of the times, not specific to the EV world. I think the world is at that place and anything can trigger it. I think we have to learn how to be kind to one another. And I think this is a really this is something I guess part of this live stream is so that we can talk about this and we can exercise some of these demons that I think a lot of us that a lot of us are feeling, and the frustrations that we are feeling. And for us as creators, I think one of the things that our team really wants to do is really emphasize and push affordable EVs, push EVs for everybody, push cleaner, greener, safer, smarter lifestyles, push projects where people are learning to convert motorbikes to electric. We're working with a team in Africa about that at the moment, talking about democratizing transport and making transport more equitable and more accessible. And then, dealing with things like this. An ID3 has burned in the Netherlands. And we have to kind of get to this point where we have to wonder, okay, what is our target? Is our target to have no battery fires with any electric vehicle, full stop? Because I feel that is impossible for us to achieve. We cannot ever get to no fires because statistically that would be impossible to achieve. We get internal combustion engine vehicle fires every day, and the number of battery electric vehicle fires that we're experiencing right now is far lower than it is for internal combustion engine. The only car right now that is more likely to burst into flames than an internal combustion engine vehicle is the Bolt. But that's partly because of the way that Chevrolet has handled it, and GM has handled it, and LG Energy has handled it. And I know here in the United States, wonder if it's more of a USA than a European thing. And, would you mind if I point a question here? EV World or EV USA, do you think the same behavior we see here happens in Europe or Asia? I think in Europe, it's very different. I know in Europe, there seems to be a lot more camaraderie, certainly in the UK, based on my interpretation of what people are saying back in the UK. And that frustrates me as well. We watched Johnny Smith this morning do a really fantastic video on a EV converted Citroen 2CV, which is an amazing classic car and an amazing vehicle. And just converting that to electric makes me smile. Electric drivetrains make me smile. Driving an EV makes me smile. But I also know that a lot of the problems that exist in the EV world right now are down to EV drivers and EV fans. And I guess this is why I'm talking about the stuff that nobody wants to hear. A small minority of EV drivers and EV fans, often the vocal ones, are spoiling it for everybody else, who are making it worse for everybody else. My team is getting sick and tired of dealing with people in the comment section, and we're getting to the point now where we're considering, do we just turn it off? We can't, because YouTube punishes you if you turn off comments, and we don't want to heavily ban everybody. So I just know that toxic comment sections are toxic, but we're seeing it on Twitter, we're seeing it on the social medias, and like you say, I know it is indicative of what's going on in the world politically right now, but I was kind of hoping that the EV world would be different. Maybe it was a naivete of mine to expect that would be different. It's got to the point now where yesterday we put a deposit down on a car, a replacement for the Bolt EV, and this is my wife's car. We put a deposit down on a car for her, and I know that we are not going to discuss it yet, partly because we're not getting it yet. We want to see, it's a refundable deposit. We want to see if, what happens with the Bolt. We were going to go with the Bolt EUV. We may not now, as one of the car swaps. We are swapping from the Bolt, not because of the Bolt, being a bad car, not because of necessarily the bolts catching fire, because there are problems with every electric vehicle on the road in some way or another that require attention. And there's always an outlier. There's always someone somewhere who has a problem with a car that nobody else has. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the world. We're now getting rid of our bolts, or looking to get rid of our bolts, because we're not happy with the way that the corporation, the company, handled it rather than everything else. So it's a refundable deposit. And we're not going to talk about what that car is. We may never talk about what that car is, because we're sick and tired of all of the BS that comes with it. People deciding that they are better than other people, and they're going to hate on other people for not making the same decision. We've had to, some of the comments that we get, and some of the mentions that we get, and other creators get, and I speak to other creators as well, and it's the same issue. Everybody gets it. It's not just us. It's that we know better, and you are a stupid person if you don't agree with us. And that's not what the world of broadcast media should be, and it's not what the world of YouTube should be, and it's not what the world of plug-in vehicles should be. And I just want everybody to know here that if you purchased a car, and you purchased a car in good faith for your needs, for your choices, and that car suits your choices, and it lowers your overall carbon emissions, and it makes your world cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter, then I just want to give you a big hug right now. I don't care whether you have a Tesla, BMW, a Nissan, whether you have a Toyota, whether you have well, you probably don't have a Toyota because there's no electric Toyotas right now, but whether you have a Chevy, whether you have a Ford, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are transitioning your world to cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter transportation. And that is that's what we should all be championing, I'm getting sick and tired of people with no background, no evidence, claiming that we are making things up because we, quote, hate a company. We're getting fed up and tired of people listening to me narrate something, or listening to one of the other members of the team narrate something, and decide based on our vocal performance that we are trying to communicate something negative in what we say. A good example is the battery day, not the battery day, the AI day, in which, honestly, the script is pretty complimentary about what Tesla had done. The artificial intelligence learning was very impressive, although we've seen other automakers do it. The chip design was thoroughly awesome, and the robotics was a bit silly, and we said as much. But we've got to a point where we cannot, and again, this is another truth, we've got to a point when we cannot disagree civilly, and it makes me angry. And honestly, that's the reason why I've considered giving up so much in the last couple of months. It's not because I don't believe in electric vehicles before, because I believe in electric vehicles more now than I think I have ever believed in electric vehicles. But the thing that frustrates me is the inability of us all, and that includes me. I'm not kind of sitting on a hill and going, oh, well, I'm better than everybody else. We all do it, me included. I know I bite on Twitter sometimes. I know I bite in the comments section sometimes. And I guess this is why this is unscripted and off-air. And off-air. This is on a Sunday when there are fewer people watching. I get frustrated with people not willing to listen to other sides, willing to criticize people based on a very arbitrary set of facts, and not accepting and realizing that everybody's needs are different. Our biggest goal, our biggest push should be decarbonizing our transportation, not decarbonizing transportation for the top 1%, not decarbonizing transportation for those who are the wealthiest, decarbonizing everything. And I guess one of the things that I want to talk about today is where we are going as a channel. We want to cover more decarbonization, more equitable decarbonization. And that means sometimes we have to talk about things that are tough. Thank you, Robert. You are very wonderful. You are such a lovely guy. Thank you very much for donating. If anybody else wants to donate, feel free. You can do that. Send us a super chat. We'll put it up. Also, of course, if you want to go to patreon.com/Transport Evolved, I will give you a shout out if you sign up as a Patreon supporter now. If you come in during the show, I will give you a bit of a shout. And we've got to a point now where we're putting car companies on pedestals, some aren't. One of the things that really frustrates me is people harping on about the EV1. Oh, well, a GM killed the EV1, so they're going to be bad for EVs for the rest of their life. No, some of the people at GM who were at GM back in the EV1 days did do terrible things. The engineers who worked on the car were not responsible for the car being killed. The people who sold the car were not responsible for the car being killed. Some of the behaviors of a company, it's not the company as a corporation, it's people within the company that make the company bad, and the company culture. And companies change over time. Now, I think personally that GM made a really great car in the Bolt, but rushed it through. GM boasted at the time as to how GM boasted at the time that it had developed the Bolt in record time. And I think that's what's really come back and bitten Chevy in the butt, because GM rushed that car through. It relied too much on LG to provide most of the electronics in that car, everything from the display to the telematics to the drive control units to the motors to the battery pack to the charging system. That's all LG. It's not GM. Really, it's the Ultium that is really the first that GM is doing much of the work itself. With the Bolt, everything else was pretty much LG. So I think GM screwed up, and I think GM needs to pay a price for that. Thank you, another casual observer. I really like what you're doing. Thank you. That's an interesting avatar. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ralph, even. Thank you very, very much. For more decarbonization stories, we are hopefully going to cover that more in the future. Now, my frustration right now is me changing my car, getting rid of the bolts. It's not because the car's caught fire. It's because GM screwed up the handling of it. Had GM said, we are going to replace all the batteries straight away, we've identified the problem, or even if GM had said, we don't know what the problem is, we're going to make sure everybody has a car to drive, and we're going to make this good, we're going to make sure that nobody is left out in the cold, then I would still consider being a GM customer long term. I may end up having to go with an MSRP swap. I may even have to go back to a gasoline vehicle for a short period of time, which I find absolutely abhorrent. But to make sure that I don't lose any money on my car, the car that I'm currently paying off, I may have to do that. And I think that the situation that we find ourselves in right now, just up your good work. Been watching you for years, says Michael. Thank you. You're an absolute gent. So GM screwed up. The way GM handled it is what makes me not personally want to be a customer of GM. But as a journalist, so that's me personally, as a journalist, I still have to cover GM. I cannot let my personal problems with the Bolt EV influence what I do. And I'm sorry, my camera's doing mid things. Should not be allowed to influence my reporting. So I'm going to still carry on reporting GM. Somebody got really snarky with us the other day and said, why do you keep covering GM? Your car could burst into flames. Why are you covering GM? And the answer is because we have to. Just like we cover all the other companies that are in the sector, both Winter and Kate Walton, Winter Tashley and Kate Walton Elliott both have, thank you, Gerald, both have problems with their i3s, their BMW i3s. We still cover the i3, and we mentioned that they have both had problems with it, but we still cover BMW, we still cover the i3. Do you know what? If Mark wants to set me up with an FUV, I'm going to say this now to Mark at Arkimoto. If Mark from there wants to set us up with an Arkimoto FUV until the F-150 arrives, which everyone knows I'm getting, then be my guest. I'm not going to say no. But where was I? So frustrations with car companies can be different to frustrations with the industry. And I can be frustrated at GM, but I can also be frustrated at people who turn around and moan and bitch and tease and laugh at. And Winter and I talked about this the other day in the live stream. I don't know if Winter's watching right now. He's got my IM, so he can send me messages if he wants me to say anything. The frustration with GM is personal. The frustration with the industry and the fans and the people who comment and the people who represent the EV community, because let's face it, when you are making a statement online, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you're representing EV drivers, whether you like to think it or not. If you are an obnoxious Tesla fan or a Tesla owner, you are representing people look at that and go, that person owns a Tesla. Maybe all Tesla owners are like that. Now, you and I know that's not true. I have lots of friends who own Teslas who are really wonderful, kind, and awesome people. Hour of minimum wage. Thank you, another casual observer. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I did work 80. I'll have to work it out. Give me a second and I'll figure it out in my head. So I did normal hours on Monday and Tuesday last week. So I did 16 hours Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday I did 12 hours. So that's 28. And then I did another 28. Then I probably did 16 hours on Thursday and 20 hours on Friday. So add that all up. That's how much work we did last week. I just want to go back and look at some of these because I kind of lost my train of thought. What are your thoughts on the recent Netherlands ID3 fire that happened straight after the AC charger was removed? ID3 also has LG batteries. I didn't know that. So, without discussing the car that we've ordered, it may have LG batteries. This may be a concern for us, but I think this is one of my frustrations. Is we're looking at all these car companies, and one of my frustrations right now is that people seem to be attacking GM for the Bolt fires and not LG, but at the same point are attacking LG for the Hyundai problems, and that is that is a challenge. All right, car makers have always carried some sort of stigma. Think about people's attitude towards BMW drivers, Audi, Rolls-Royce. Some people always judge you by the decision you make. Ronnie, that is a really smart thing to say, and you are totally on the nail. I think today, though, we've become so politically wound up that people are not willing to learn to agree with differences. Now, my daughter said something to me yesterday. We had coffee together. My daughter said something to me yesterday about how someone she knew, she didn't realize that their family were politically very conservative. And she expressed surprise about that. And I said, you know what? It's good to be able to know to talk to people who don't always agree with you. You have to learn how to be able to agree with you. And this is another. The owner of a cleaning company told me she can't have a Tesla because their clients will judge her and she will probably lose the client. And that's, again, part of the challenge here, right? Knowing how people react. And I would love to be able to make the EV world, in like my ideal world would be that it doesn't matter what EV you drive. You drive an EV, that's great. Or you drive a car that is lower carbon than perhaps you would have driven 10 years ago. That is more important to me than other things. And I'm going to be working on a script on this soon, talking about the fact that EVs, we've become so obsessed with range and performance that we've kind of lost track of affordability, and we've kind of lost track of all of the other things. And again, this is another stuff that nobody wants to hear. We are so obsessed with range that people are buying cars based on the range and the range alone, not based on how well the company has engineered things in the past, not based on what they actually need. They're doing it based on what they think they need. And we are pushing car companies to make ever larger and more energy dense battery packs. And again, I think that's part of the problem here with the LG Energy situation. LG Energy is just churning out bigger packs, or more energy dense packs that are packing in more energy. And I think the battery fires are here to stay. That's another uncomfortable thing to admit. Now, in the case of the Bolt, in the case of the 12 or so fires, I think there's now been 15, 14. In the case of all of those fires with the Bolt, I think we do need to hold GM accountable. But there's been over 100,000 cars now been produced, Bolts now. So that's, let's say, 14 out of 100,000. That's very low chance that these cars are going to catch into fire. The reason why I am getting out of it is because if this is how GM handles a big thing, how are they going to handle a small thing? I want to have a car company that lets me work on my car, that supports me when things go wrong, and I don't feel that GM can do that anymore. That is my personal opinion. Battery fires for life, as they say, is the new normal. Well, I mean, look, I think as an industry, battery fires are not going to go away, and we need to learn how to use them and how to work with them. And to my knowledge, there has not been a single electric car that's been on sale for more than a year that hasn't had some battery fire somewhere. Whether that's Nissan, whether that's Tesla, whether that's Chevy. There was that Model S Plaid that caught fire a couple of months back. There was, we've had Bolt fires, we've had Kona fires. I don't think the Kia e-Niro has ever caught fire, so maybe that's one. And also that also makes me wonder about LG Energy and SK Innovation, because you got to hand it. If SK really did steal that technology, and I don't know if it did, I'm not going to go there. If LG Energy really did steal that tech, if SKI really did steal that energy, that battery technology from LG Energy, then well, at least it did a better job of manufacturing it. So I guess the whole reason for this live stream is to go, and someone's going to get up. I know someone will get upset with it, but you know what? Screw it. It's to say it's okay to be pissed off right now. It's okay to be frustrated right now. It's okay to be looking at this going, I don't know if I can buy another EV right now. And without giving the game away, I know that a lot of the team have discussed this at great length. Winter, especially, has been saying, I don't know what car to buy. He's just bought a car, but knowing what car to buy to replace his Bolt has been a long, frustrating road for him. Same for Kate. She's looking for a car to replace her her i3, her BMW i3, and she doesn't know what car to get because the Bolt was a contender, and now it's no longer a contender because the way that GM is treating its customers. What really did it for me with GM was that guy who had a battery fire, and GM was like, no, fire void your warranty, you're on your own. He didn't get any, he's paying money for a car that caught fire and he didn't have gap insurance. So yeah, I cannot agree with you there, Holly Me. GM has spread itself too thin. Any company that comes to them asking for sales, they say yes. And I think that is a problem. So QA Library said e-Niro, I think they had one. Maybe they did. But I think battery fires are here to stay. And I think some people will use that as an excuse not to go EV because battery fires are scary, right? Battery fires are scary. They've been covered in the media a lot. They're scary. But ice fires are also scary. Fire is just a scary thing, right? We have to take steps to minimize the fire. But again, I think because we are pushing car companies to make faster charging and bigger battery packs and longer ranges and faster cars, we are pushing the envelope harder than we should. And I do wonder what would happen if we just took a little longer over our battery technology, right? Deathpunk even says, my neighbor's Ford Explorer burnt. Exactly. Conroy Jet, I guess I'm not as pissed off at this time since I have gone through the buyback experience once and have all of my ducks in the row right from the start. And I think that's the other thing, right? The fires that have happened, a lot of people are going, oh, I'm just going to give back my 2020 now or my 2022 or whatever. And again, my reaction is, well, hang on, hold on. I'm probably going to get the batteries replaced. If GM comes to me on tomorrow, rings us up tomorrow and says, okay, we're going to replace both your batteries. This is the date on which we're going to replace your batteries. And we can guarantee on pain of death that your batteries are going to be fine. Then maybe we'll just, keep the cars a bit longer. I don't really want to swap my car out until I pick up the Ford because that would be wasteful. Are there more fires per mile driven with EVs than with ICE cars? Absolutely not. No, nowhere near. Nowhere near. Do you think this will break LG and GM? I think GM is going to sue the pants off LG, and I think that is going to give us the ultimate problem. That LG is going to find it difficult to continue to produce batteries. Charles is asking if we got a marquee. Like I said, I'm not telling you guys what car we have ordered. Suffice to say, it's not due until about the same time as the Ford F-150. So, yeah. How can they say the batteries are okay now? So, let's talk about this. So, as far as I'm aware, the problem with a battery is that there is a torn anode and a bent separator, right? Now, I've been to a battery facility and they have massive battery production lines, huge battery production lines, right? And the battery production lines go on for a really, really long time. And they have massive machines that just, churn everything through. And they start off with the two separate materials and they check those and then they merge them together. And then it's all automated. It takes one machine in that production line to screw up an entire load of batteries. We don't know if this issue with the batteries is an intermittent one, which would be hard to notice, or if it's a machine that was set up incorrectly, in which case I would say that the problem is LG's. Looks like LG is rushing with the machines. Maybe it's not LG's fault. Maybe it's the robotic specialist or machine manufacturer that built the machines that LG is using, like the industrial equipment manufacturers. Maybe they are where the buck will stop. But also it could be QC, quality control. Now, we razz on Teslas as a community for having it's the ongoing joke. Tesla's quality control in its early days of Model S, Model X, and Model 3 were all pretty terrible. Tesla has got traditionally better as it's rolled more of a particular model off the production line. And panel gaps are less of an issue now than they were 5 years ago. It could be bad code for the robots, says David. Yeah, absolutely. It could also be a bad code issue. I wouldn't say it's an issue when installed by GM. We're talking about a physical defect at the individual cell level. LG is really a keystone figure in the EV world right now. If they do shut it due to lawsuit, the ripples would be huge. They would be. And this could put back EVs for decades. It could be decades. And I know that, again, people will be laughing about this and saying, well, you should have just bought a Tesla. And you have to say, well, Tesla can't make enough batteries to transition everybody to electric. It's just impossible. This is a group effort from lots of different companies. What of the IMEV and fire? Yeah, there used to be IMEVs that caught fire, or there were problems with the batteries in early iMEVs and Outlander plug-in hybrids, they put a stop sale on before they even left dealerships. There was an issue. There was a contamination issue in the battery production facility, and they had to go back and make brand new batteries. Without having a root cause that's been demonstratively corrected, says Christopher. It seems like they're just kicking a ball down the road. I hope they know something that they've not made public yet. Now, it's likely that GM knows more than it's letting on, because companies have to do risk assessments all the time. And EJD says it sounds like a piece of machinery that isn't calibrated properly, and that same calibration came over to North American line. But it could just be one machine that was set up incorrectly. There might be multiple machines. This is what I was trying to explain to Winter the other day. There might be multiple machines all making the same part, and all it takes is one of those machines to not be making the part right. Even if there are 3 other machines, for example, all making the part correctly, and one machine making the part incorrectly, until you figure out that there are 3 machines making it correctly and one machine making it incorrectly, you have to replace all the batteries. Once you've figured out and identified that is the problem in the manufacturing process, this is what needs to be done, then you can make known good batteries. And I think that's where we go. What batteries will the Ioniq have? I don't know. The Ioniq 5. It seems like Hyundai is at least accepting ownership for the issue. I just had a replacement battery for our 2019 Kona. Yeah, and that's what I hope will happen eventually with the Bolt. And people who are wishing the worst on GM and Hyundai and LG don't understand the enormity of transitioning the world to a cleaner, greener fleet. It does take every single automaker to be pulling, and every single battery that we can produce. And as someone just said, that's really what happened with the Hubble mirror. Yeah. If NASA can screw up as badly as it did with Hubble, then so can these batteries be screwed up. Do we know of any e-Niros? I don't, but somebody did say that there was one. So look, I don't really want to just talk about the battery fire, but if you want to support the show and you want to become a patron, patreon.com/transport evolved. Let's see if we can raise our Patreon support a little bit more. And if you don't, super chat. So other things that we don't want to hear. There are a large number of automakers right now that are using LG Energy for battery cells. And if you want to go with an EV, the chances are most of the EVs that you are considering buying have LG Energy produced battery cells. And you have to decide whether that is something you are okay with. It's a bit like, yeah, Jonathan says over 1,000 Patreon supporters now. Yeah, we currently have, let's see, I'm going to pull up the Patreon page. So need some lunch. It is 1,012 patrons right now. So let's see if we can make it. Let's see if we can get to 1,030 patrons. That's Tesla batteries are produced by Panasonic right now. Tesla has multiple battery suppliers, not just Panasonic. They are producing a huge number of. Tesla is using a huge number of different battery suppliers. In the past, it's used Samsung SDI. It's used Cattle. It's used. I believe it's using LG in some of its batteries, maybe not for cars, maybe for something else. So I believe that that it may even also have to deal with some of this. But again, you're talking about tolerances. And I think this is another important thing to talk about. And this is, again, not very popular, not really cool. Batteries in EVs are built with very tiny tolerances because we're building things at the microscopic level, and it's hard to make batteries. Elon Musk talked about it. It's hard to make batteries scalable. It's hard to make anything scale. Batteries, especially so, because you're talking about tiny, 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 tiny tolerances. This is not like it's not like building an engine, right? Where you can see the physical engine bits, and sometimes you might be able to not tell if there is a tolerance issue within the engine, but you sure as heck can tell if there's a cracked head or if there's something else wrong. On a production line with batteries, we are talking about things that are at the microscopic level. We're talking about nanometers of tolerance, not millimeters or 16ths of an inch. So that is very different. And so we need to be mindful of that. It's hard to make batteries. Imagine laptop, right? MacBook Pro. Imagine if because of a fire involving an Apple laptop, everybody turned around and said, we're never going to buy an Apple laptop again. That would have had a big impact. But now people are saying that about any batteries involving LG. And I think it's impossible for us to get to a point in the future where we've got enough EVs on the road for LG not to sort this out and fix it. I've read that all EV batteries have tiny defects as well, including Tesla. The difference is that Tesla has a much better BMS. Yeah, that is a big part of it, right? The BMS is so important. And I've heard some horror stories about the Bolt BMS, which was built by LG Energy. I've heard some horror stories about that, not, cutting corners, trying to make things affordable. But it comes back to us wanting more range, more performance, and automakers rolling out these infinitesimally small updates. We've been looking at all these different cars that are on the market right now. And you just think about the difference between the 2019 Bolts, the early 2019 Bolts and the 2020 Bolts, right? We went from a 60 kilowatt hour to a 66 kilowatt hour just because we could squeeze out those extra 6 kilowatt hour stuff. By the way, the MacBook uses LG batteries. Okay, that's it. I'm throwing this out. No, but actually, I've actually bought some. I'm gonna later on today. I need to take this exact laptop apart. I need to fix the hinge on it because the hinge is wobbly, and I need to put a new battery in it. And I've got a new battery sitting downstairs. I'm going to put a new battery on it. I'm going to recycle it. It's going to become a spare Transport Evolve laptop. All right, we did have Samsung battery fires. Did it affect their sales so long? For a while, right? But the other thing to bear in mind here, and again, this is unpopular, is that most people don't give 10 you-know-whats about battery fires. Majority of Bolt EV owners, I'm pretty sure, are kind of like, okay, this is not good. When am I going to get my car fixed? They want to know that their car is not going to burst into flames for sure, but they're not obsessed about it the way that the industry is obsessed about it. And I think that's another thing. We've just got to remember that not everybody is as obsessed about batteries as we are. Even me, right? I am obsessing about this in some way because, I've been looking at alternatives. EVs and UN fires are scary. Yeah, we need a Mr. Fusion strap to EVs. All right, so I'm feeling a lot better now. I hope you are feeling a lot better. It's okay to be feeling frustrated and angry and all of this about batteries right now, because batteries and EVs are fairly new. Although EVs have been around a long time, we have chosen as a society not to develop EVs. And it would be great, if we look back and go, where would we be today if the EV one had not been crushed? We'd probably have better cars. But we don't have that reality. It does us no good to look at that. We need to focus on what we can do and what we can change and what we can, how we can make the world a better place. And so I want everybody who's watching, all 300 plus of you, to think about how you can change how you respond to things like the fire, how you respond to other EV owners. If you don't own a Tesla, don't badmouth Tesla owners, because most of them are wonderful people. Don't badmouth people who bought a Bolt because you think they're stupid. Have some sympathy for them, right? That they bought a car that in good faith that they thought was good. Turned out that it had an issue. Don't criticize people who want to buy back because they're worried and they have valid fears. And don't criticize people who say, no, I'm just going to wait for the battery to be replaced. And you know what? If you're looking at all of this going, I don't know if an EV is for me right now, that is an okay feeling to have as well. Now, sure, there will be some people who are going to criticize EVs and use that, to spread fear and misunderstanding and all of that. The fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt about, I'm not going to buy an EV because they're going to burst into flames. And you can turn around and talk to them about the statistics and go, well, statistically speaking, unless you're buying a Bolt, your car is still less likely to catch fire. I mean, nobody buys an internal combustion engine car and goes, well, it might burst into flames. But plenty do burst into flames. And when it does, we just go, oh, there was a problem with the car. It broke. It caught fire. And adopting a new technology is never a totally smooth process. We will evolve in time. Right, exactly. This is my point. Technology takes a while. If we... is there a stop sale on Bolts? Yes. Right. There is a stop sale on Bolts right now. My point is, if we did nothing because we were always scared of the potential worst case scenarios, we would never do anything. There's always some risk. And it's up to the individual to decide whether their risk is what their risk threshold is. And it's important that we don't hype things up. We are going to do a Bolt EV video later on this coming week. But at the same point, I think we just have to be kind with each other. And we just have to be nice to each other. And we have to listen and have compassion. But as Philly Phil says, unfortunately, current state of DC politics shows we're way past sympathy and compassion. Are the other people who oppose you going to exhibit this behavior towards you? Yeah, no. But I always like to think that we are going to be better as a society. I like to believe that we have the potential to be better as humans and be better as consumers of technology. And David says, I couldn't afford an EV now, but I haven't let that stop me from reducing my carbon footprint. Yeah, good job, David. That is what's more important. We have to be better. And we have to start locally with ourselves, whether that's being kinder to ourselves, whether that's working less, whether that is just listening to other people's concerns and fears and being nicer to each other, or whether that is figuring out how to be a better advocate for cleaner, greener, safer, smarter. So, Gerald, thank you. Nice, informative conversation. I have to say goodbye. I'm glad you found it informative because I felt like I rambled. EV fires are here to stay. We need to ensure that they stay at a low enough level, and when they do happen, OEMs need to do the right thing. Can't agree with this more, right? We have to put things in perspective. We have to ensure that we push forwards and be pragmatic and be honest. Being honest about the fires is so important. We shouldn't be downplaying it. We shouldn't be hyping it. We should be embracing the facts and being pragmatic about the solutions. Stefan says, you do ramble, but in a good way. Stefan, I think you just bought a new car, didn't you? I think you just bought a new car. So congratulations if you did. Phil, your passion is compelling, but I fear now it is useless. Oh, well, I hope that it is not useless. Be excellent to one another, Bill and Ted. That's kind of the point, right? So if you are a Tesla owner and you think that everybody is a complete and utter dickhead for not buying a Tesla, maybe kind of curb your enthusiasm a little bit there and go, be nice. Stefan said, yes, a new City L. So Stefan, City L has a special place in my heart because it was my very first electric vehicle. And as Winter hinted the other day, it was a car that was very small, wasn't really a car. It was a three-wheeled thing, and I loved the City L, and it was the most terrible electric car I ever owned. But it's also the one that got me started, and for that I am eternally grateful because it started me on a journey, a wonderful adventure. And without that, I'd still be teaching music and probably being very unhappy about people with too much money forcing their kids to learn an instrument that they didn't want to. And that was ultimately what caused me to get rid of teaching, because I felt that too many wealthy people were throwing their money around and expecting things to just fix because they had money. And I find that kind of completely antithetical to how I view the world. Everybody deserves all of the information. Everybody deserves a fair crack, and everybody deserves a chance to make their world better. All right. I just want to thank another casual observer. Wow, you've been very kind today. Buying used EVs would be greener than buying a new EV, wouldn't it? Drive it till it drops. Yeah. I may buy a used EV temporarily. Obviously, we do have the Ford F-150 coming, and I'm comfortable buying the Ford F-150 as a fairly new car because the Ford F-150 has been around a long time, and we have been looking for a pickup for a long time. Alex says, cars are just personal taste, just like many other things. No more complex than that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Adrian. That's very kind of you. You're so sweet. And Silicon Sapphire, how do you feel this will affect people living in apartments with electric vehicles and a potential for stigma in the future with where to park them? I think it's going to be a problem. And I think Winter and others who live in apartments are going to have to do some hard work on that. Get a PHEV, says Death Punk, cheaper and more available. Some people are going to buy a PHEV, and as long as they use it mostly in electric mode, that's going to be a really good solution. And again, I think there's a lot of stigma in the EV world. There's a lot of stigma in the EV world against people who drive PHEVs, and there are some other broadcasters, some of whom I am very fond of, who are vehemently anti-PHEV. And I don't understand that, because at the end of the day, if somebody drives a vehicle with a plug, they are going to do everything they possibly can to drive it as an electric vehicle. That is my honest belief. After they've driven in electric mode, then going back to a gasoline engine is never a good thing. So I'd love to have a first generation Nissan Leaf, except for the whole Nissan charges $9,000 for a new battery thing. Well, Fixie, I don't know if you and I are in a shared chat room on Telegram, but if you are, maybe hit me up and I'll point you in a direction of there's a local company in Portland who does battery swaps, like third party or kind of aftermarket battery swaps. All right. Robert, I bought an EV in large part to your channel. I did buy a Tesla, though I live in California, and it's exciting to see more EV options coming along. I promise to be a nice Tesla owner. Like I say, the majority of Tesla owners are wonderful people. They really are. And I think one of the reasons why Tesla owners are getting a bad rap is because there's so many Tesla owners now, right? Everybody who used to own a BMW without using a stereotype, is now owning a Tesla. But the point of the matter is, back in the early days of EV owners, people who drove EVs were generally early adopters and people who were nerdy, people who wanted EVs to succeed. And now people are buying EVs because it's trendy or because it's cheaper. And so you have to remember that the person who drives the car is not representative of an entire group of people. And that's something, again, that we are doing. I'm guilty of this. So many other people are guilty of it as well. But interestingly, Charles says most all other Tesla owners I talk to about EVs, any other EVs, hate on anything else but Tesla. So I just stopped bringing up other EVs because they aren't EV enthusiasts. They are Tesla enthusiasts. That's a good thing to point out, right? So there's two differences there. So you get people who are EV fans and people who are Tesla fans. And as long as everybody is making the world a cleaner, greener, safer, smarter place, that is all I care about. And this is another one. Empathy is not strong in the US, which is sad. That is something that makes me sad every day. Empathy is what we need to survive as a world. QA Library has a question. In the UK, the government dropped all support for plug-in hybrids because especially company car drivers are driving it as a self-charging car. Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think if you own a plug-in hybrid, if you buy a plug-in hybrid, you should prove that you have somewhere to charge it. Adrian says, I just moved from New York City to upstate, and I've only noticed now how many pickup trucks are used as daily drivers. Yeah, a lot. I know you just ordered an electric F-150. Yeah, and we ordered, again, I don't want to repeat myself, but we ordered an F-150 because we have a lot of stuff. Without showing you, without going and grabbing the stuff, we have 3 Pelican 1650 cases. We have like lots of different lights and stands for the lights. These are our smallest lights, right? But our big lights are like big ass studio lights that are like chunky things like this, and they're on big stands, and they've got big, reflectors on them. They take up a lot of space, and when we do events, we have to take the computers with us too. So the iMac I'm using right now to broadcast, we have to take that with us, and so all of that equipment, and then all of the people, it's a lot of space. Really is a lot of space. So we have to make sure that we drive that something that is big enough for us to carry a lot of stuff around in. All right. Empathy is not as strong in the US, which is sad. Yep. Just like the Florida and Texas school systems and respective government attitude towards those school systems. Yeah. And someone said I started another casual observer. I started with a 2014 Volt and it convinced me to go fully electric. Chose to lease a 2020 Volt as an interim measure while new models are being developed. Really like the F-150 Lightning Pro version. Yeah, I mean, I'd buy a Lightning Pro if I didn't have to share it with my wife. She wants a little bit of a fancier truck, so I think we'll probably go for something. Are you going to put a cap on your F-150? We'll probably put a bed, lockable bed. We will have to. The insurance company would mandate it because when we're doing an event, we carry a lot of stuff. I'm not going to tell you how much stuff, how expensive, and in terms of value, but it's a lot of stuff. Are you going to? Some people keep asking me if, by the way, if we're going to fully charge live in the UK. No. I care too much for my team to make them travel to the UK right now. I care too much for my team to make them go anywhere. I have the same problem, says Nikki. Says another casual observer. Yeah. I put $63 of gas into my wife's Honda Pilot yesterday. I can't wait to get my ID4. Yeah. And I think people, I think, one of the reasons I wanted to do this and to kind of talk about some home truths, which is, there's a lot of LG Energy batteries in the industry, and you just have to decide whether you're okay with potential of those vehicles going wrong. And it doesn't mean that every LG Energy vehicle is going to burst into flames, just like not every Bolt is going to burst into flames. Like I said, for me, it was the Bolts is a lovely car. I still love mine. I still have a grin when I drive it. The reason we're getting rid of it is because of the way that GM handled it. And like I say, that poor chap who's still paying for a car he doesn't own anymore because it caught fire. And also GM's attitude towards this battery fire has made me go, okay, what happens if I own a GM vehicle and something else goes wrong? To be honest, I should have probably sold my Bolt a long time ago because we had problems with the transmission in my Bolt, which still haven't been resolved. And if it wasn't for the dealership going, now we got you, we'll fix this, we'll make it good, I would have a lot of money. I don't want my new car to burn in the driveway, says Charles. But again, statistics, it's very slim. But you could have a gas car fire as well. So the only way to avoid a vehicle fire is not to drive a vehicle. We should all be riding bikes anyway. Would you like some footage from Fully Charged Live? Yeah. Email us. Absolutely, Jonathan. Email us. I'm gradually getting 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour on my in my Bolt. Yeah, good job. We like that. Gas does the same. Exactly. You know, there is the potential whenever you buy a car for the car to go bang. I didn't watch the latest video, Manuel, from Rivian and the QA. Yeah, GM's non-existent customer service is really to blame. So I don't want to big up this too much, but there'll be a live stream on Tuesday or Wednesday this week involving someone who is going to help us take a deep dive into the Bolt EV battery. And we're very excited about it. We just need to make sure that the person is available. They've said yes to doing it. So we just need to make sure that they are available and we'll go from there. So it'll be a live stream and we need to make sure that we do that. And there'll be lots of questions that we can send your way. So we'll start promoting that tomorrow probably. So there we go. Just like the way it bungled the ignition recall switch, which is what Winter said all the time. Bixby Consequence. That's a great name. On the bright side, EV controversy means EVs have arrived in a meaningful way. Absolutely. Abso-bloody-lutely. Right, everybody. I'm going to go now. I'm feeling a lot happier now. I've got some stuff off my chest. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. But it's important, I think, for everybody to have a bit of a frustration now and then to get stuff off their chest. Because, you know, I don't know about you, it's very frustrating to be in that space and to have, you know, have stuff not go the way you want them to. Thank you to Robert Walter. You've just become our 1014th patron, I think. Thank you very much for being a patron. To 1013th patron. It really does make a big difference when we all acknowledge how we are feeling. Think of it as therapy. Know that you are not alone. Know that if you've chosen an EV for whatever reason, I am grateful because you're doing something right. Know that if you cannot afford an EV and you are changing the way that you move around the world and through it, know that I am grateful. If you are reducing your carbon footprint by traveling less, by consuming less, by recycling, by reusing, know that I am grateful for it. And there will be countless more people in the world who will never get a chance to say thank you for the work that you are doing. But changing the world requires everybody to make steps, everybody to do what they can to make the world cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter. Don't attack other people for making decisions that are different to your own, especially if it's something as inconsequential as what type of electric vehicle they buy. Don't criticize someone for not driving an EV yet. Encourage them to make the journey. And I believe that we all have the power within us to make the world a better place. It starts with you. It starts with me. And if someone disagrees with you, be willing to sit down and metaphorically break bread with that person. Find out why they disagree with you. Be willing to have that conversation, because in my experience, when you do, it makes you a better person and it makes their world better as well. And yeah, I know there are lots of people frustrated about General Motors. I'm one of them. There's lots of people frustrated about Tesla. I'm one of them. But we also need to be willing to acknowledge when things are going right, when companies are doing well, and also be able to criticize that same company. And I think that's one of the things I think that a lot of people in the sector are unwilling to do. We need to be able to praise Tesla and criticize Tesla, praise GM and criticize GM, praise Ford and criticize Ford, because that is how companies get better. It's how humans get better. If you spend your entire time telling somebody that what they are saying makes them a terrible person and they are a horrible person, that they will never make a better world, then you're not doing any good. You have to show them how to change, how to improve. That is the big thing. And I'm sorry about that. I managed to kick myself out of the stream. But thank you, everybody. As always, keep evolving.